this is about my 5th time retaking this, so we're talking about Inscryption. I'm posting a duplicate of this video on Rumble. Let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, this one is going to be hard to talk about without going into massive spoilers. You have been warned. If you want the too long didn't listen, then go ahead and give it a go. I got more out of 20 bucks for Inscryption than 60 bucks for Metroid Dread. I think that's everything you need to know. Anyway, let's get into this.
It's time to do.
Okay, gets a little confusing. So, on the outset, it seems like you're some weary traveler who happened across the wrong lonely cabin in the woods with a crazy guy who really wants to play card games. You play through it until you reach the end, and eventually you'll figure out the puzzles to get out of the infinite loop. Turns out you're a dude playing a demo, and herp-de-derp, something spooky happens and the game is possessed, or has a virus, or is possessed by a virus or something. Not entirely clear on this part. Anyway, on progression, you'll find out there's some other people, /program, /whatever, in 3 of the cards you were playing with. Those 3, plus Leshy, the guy you were playing card games against, were like the guardians, I guess, of the game, and the player has to beat all 4 of them to take one of their spots. Of course, things don't go as planned, and the computer man brings the player to part 3 of the game, which is basically a more frustrating version of part 1 of the game. Once the player gets through this, they come up to the final leg of the game, and the player gets, I'm not kidding here, a fucking dual disc a la Yu-Gi-Oh!
Well, I hope your game is on, because I'm about to turn it off.
Game ends, and the person playing the game gets shot because... hell if I know. The porno quality acting was cringy, and I ended up skipping most of it. There's maybe 2 that we could really talk about, and even then there's not much to say. The game gets more into the mystery and atmosphere than characters. Leshy is the first character, and he's pretty much a stock, creepy horror pasta character. End of the game, he gets a little bit more developed, as it seemed like he just wanted to play the card game and was lonely, but yeah, I'm not even sure if I'm accurate about that. Characters aren't the strong suit of the game. P03 is another bad guy who hijacks the game and holds you hostage until you beat him. Why? I'll be honest, I forgot. The 3rd section of the game is where it starts to fall off. The bits where they got the guy acting stuff out in real life were dumb, cringy, and pointless, much like the plot. And look, maybe I'm just not the type of guy to be swept up in this sort of conspiratorial, evil game creepypasta. The dude at the end who comes in to shoot the player looks like my friends and I did when we were 15 years old and discovered an old camcorder in someone's garage that we tried making action movies with. I can't take any of it seriously. The 3rd section of the game also drags on way too long. I appreciate how it goes back to playing the game similar to part 1, but all part 3 does is have you traverse a map and essentially replay part 2 with different game mechanics, which was just replaying part 1 with different game mechanics. It's a lot of padding in part 3. This will bleed into the praises, but I really wish the game was just one big roguelike. Keep it with the part 1 mechanics, sprinkling in the energy system maybe, and just keep walking the map of part 1 with the branching pathways. Ditch the evil game plot, it's dumb. Part 1 is awesome. It's a fun roguelike deck building game where you cross a map and see what happens. There's also little secrets to unravel in the rest of the room, and you'll come to notice some of your cards becoming less animal-like, which was a nifty bit of foreshadowing I liked before part 3 disappointed me. Otherwise, highly addictive as any good roguelike should be, which is probably why I can't stand when the game ditches it in favor for a crappy plot. Part 2 shifts from a roguelike into a more typical deck building game where you open packs and can set up a deck using what crosses over from games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering. You know, building for consistency in a win condition, that kind of thing. Mine happened to be set up Mantis Gods and spam 9 plus attacks per turn. What I really wish they did, though, was make 2 different games. One set up like part 1 and the other set up like part 2, and then flesh the both of them out. I think the greatest praise I can lob on the game, despite how much I mock the plot elements, is it got me and my daughter working together absolutely dedicated to beating it and solving its puzzles. This was a more family, fun, entertaining game than anything we've played in the last few years. And while I hated the plot, my kid loved it, but she also loves all the game theory bait horror plots, so take that how you will. So, Inscryption! Fun game, drags way too long on the third portion of the game. Unfortunately, that's where I really have to knock the game, but I enjoyed it, my kid loved it, and like I said, I put way more hours into this $20 game than I did for a $60 Metroid game, which, I don't know, take that as you will, but that's all I got for you guys today. Go out there and treat each other like you have some sense.